Welcome back. Chapter 11. A Hope Found. One choice can change the direction of your future. If I had not decided to live where I did, I would not have met my husband. I was going to school for interior design, and I had a different little red car that got me to a job I had begun to hate 45 minutes away. I had accepted my fate of poverty, but had not let go of the dream for love. A week after I had read the book, He's Just Not That Into You, I met my future husband. I no longer wanted to cling to unhealthy interactions. I knew what I wanted, and I was willing to wait. My way forward was to take care of myself and stop searching in desperation. Friday night, the first moment I saw him walk through the door, my attention was on him. I couldn't tell if he was dating the lady he walked in the door with. He thought I was dating my neighbor. Everyone around us could tell we were both interested. We spent the entire evening having conversations, and I was disappointed when he was falling asleep at 10:30 while we sat on the couch talking. I walked him as far as I could before it was time to separate. And finally, he asked for my number. Excited and willing and hopefully, I gave him mine. I ran into my apartment to tell my roommate the great news, and I waited anxiously for his call. I didn't have his number, and I knew he didn't text often. I gave up hope after about 24 hours. I figured I would not be contacted by him. I went to work and moved on disappointed. Sunday, I went to work like normal. I was sitting on my bed after work, watching a movie when my phone rang. I didn't recognize the number. My heart skipped a beat. When it was him on the other line, I wanted to screech. The phone call wasn't long, but he had asked me out on a date. I was so excited while he was talking to me, I couldn't remember if our date was going to include dinner and a movie or just a movie. I had never gone on an official date adult style. Tuesday, while at design school, I got a text I didn't expect. He wanted to talk to me more, so he added texting to his phone plan. We started texting consistently. Years later, I found out that I was 100% his reason for getting texting to his plan within one day of meeting me. Saturday was our date. Being so excited, I ran 2 miles around my apartment complex to get my anxiety out. I was ready 2 hours early and counted the minutes until he arrived. I had snacked because I thought asking for dinner and a movie was too much. Going out to restaurants was not something I grew up doing unless it was a big event. Never have I gotten 2 expensive treats in one night. I thought it was a waste of time for me to buzz him into the building, make him come to the 7th floor, get me, and just come back down. So I decided to meet him at the main door downstairs. Together, we walked to his black Audi sedan. Audi was a jaw-dropping car for me to go on a date in. Guys I had been involved with usually had a worse car than I did. I was impressed and super curious about the inside. Sitting in the car would have been a great date in itself. He thought I was adorable as I excitedly pressed every button I could and asked about every button I didn't know. His car was the fanciest sedan I had ever been allowed in. We went to dinner and had a wonderful conversation. I was allowed to order anything I wanted. Going to restaurants with my father had me conditioned to ask for whatever I wanted. Extras and expensive items were always off limits. This new man I was with encouraged me to order anything I wanted and anything extra. He didn't care about the dollar amount if it made me happy. There was not an awkward moment or moment of weird silence. All of a sudden, the movie was going to start and we needed to go. Together, we laughed at GPS taking us out of the way to the theater. He held my hand as we walked to the theater. and watched the movie. We had wonderful conversations as he drove me home. He parked his car, and we decided he needed a parking pass. Our date wasn't over. He was tired, but he didn't want to say goodbye yet. I convinced him to come to my room and watch Jeff Dunham. We sat on my futon watching and got more and more comfortable leaning on each other. I would change out discs so I could sit down closer to him. It was a slow dance to see how comfortable we were with each other. To kiss goodbye, I walked him to his car and get my parking pass. Or to say goodbye, I walked him to his car to get my parking pass. We said goodbye with a long, beautiful kiss. He held me close and then let me go. I had the best first date of my life. After 1 month, I knew I wanted to marry him. No one before had taken care of me without asking in return. When I had verbal diarrhea, he listened and let me freak out. When I couldn't stop crying, he paid for my medication and helped me stabilize a life that was failing. I had decided to leave the job I had started to hate. I took a management retail job at a mall closer to my apartment. The hiring manager misled me on their commission plans and hours I would work. All of a sudden, I was working 12-hour shifts with breaks I was required to take in the back room, in the storeroom. Management expected me to lie so I could sell more shoes, but I couldn't lie to customers buying expensive shoes. I would call my mother crying from the bathroom because I was breaking. Going to school full time and working this job left me exhausted and not wanting to give my boyfriend any energy. My relationship with the best man I'd ever met was suffering because of my job. With support from my mother and my boyfriend, this job was the only job I ever quit without another job lined up first. It was the first job. Yeah. My oldest sister and her husband had moved into a house, so she had the most room to host Christmas. My old bed frame was now being used by my sister and her husband. The middle sister was flying in from California to visit as much family as possible. My mother and her husband were at the house to celebrate and meet the boyfriend I was bringing home. Our Christmas tradition was for the oldest to start with gifts. We always wanted our mom to start opening gifts first. It was awkward when my boyfriend opened his gifts before both of my sisters and her husband. My family is by no means wealthy. Even a $60 video game is too expensive. My husband-to-be didn't want gifts, but I had to tell my family something. They wanted to include him. We liked to drink and hang out with friends. All I could think of to tell my family that he liked to drink gin and tonic. He did not know I told them. When my boyfriend opened his gifts before everyone else, we were all quickly realizing everyone had gotten him the same gift. Gin. He felt awkward because we were celebrating Christmas in a dry household. He was now sitting with 3 bottles of gin. He was embarrassed, but my family laughed and accepted him as the family. The little bald man was starting to cause tension between the older sister and our mom. The way the bald man interacted with my oldest sister's 4 cats was childish and abusive. Over time, he was no longer welcome in my sister's home. Interior design school was fun. I loved the artistic classes and the people I was in class with. Classes were creative and colorful, which made me happy. I looked forward to school and I enjoyed my assignments. The year was 2009, so the economy was suffering. I saw that my assignments were not the quality I wanted. Other students had projects that looked phenomenal. Mine, in comparison, looked like a child's attempt at the same assignment. I knew I was not going to get hired to do the jobs I wanted to do most. I knew that I was already too stressed at the age of 22, that I could not handle balancing customers, lawyers, manufacturers, and mistakes that could end up in lawsuits. I loved the environment, and I knew it was not where I belonged. I was not going to keep paying for classes if I knew the education was not going to earn me a living. I didn't know what I would do, but I knew interior design was not my future. What was my future? After hours of talking it through with my boyfriend, it was decided that I would enroll in massage therapy school in the area. The curriculum took 9 months, so I could start earning money sooner than traditional degrees. I could work and go to school at the same time. I was inspired to start watching Friends because of Phoebe's massage storyline. Watching Friends originally, I had always wanted to be Rachel and Ross. My life had changed dramatically in those years, so now I watched Friends with fresh eyes. Massage became only a small part of why Phoebe is my favorite friend. How was I going to call and tell my mom that I was changing schools again? I didn't expect her to be mad. I didn't want to disappoint her again. I wasted so much money going to all these schools and searching for what could provide in my life. Her response to my news made me laugh. "I knew you'd end up in massage," was what she immediately said to me over the phone. I laughed in response because the weight had been lifted off my shoulders. Then I asked her why she let me waste so much time and money in the other schools. She knew I would not have listened. She knew I needed to make my own choices. She was right. I would have made the same choices no matter what she said. I lived my life to the beat of my own drum, and she supported me. She helped me consolidate my loans and apply for more to pay for my education. We felt forced into a predatory loan. My boyfriend was shocked to find out that I had never been to Wisconsin Dells. His family went all the time when he was a child. My family did not take vacations that cost much money. He said I deserved to go. I didn't know if I could trust my roommate and her boyfriend or brother not to go in my room while we were gone over the weekend. When I shut my door, I placed material around the base that would move if opened when gone. I used tricks my sister had used when we were kids if she wanted to know when I wore her white high-heeled shoes. He booked a hotel for us. He drove us to Wisconsin in his awesome car. We shared our music and talked about everything and nothing. We walked around the town and went to whatever store I wanted. He let me order anything I wanted in restaurants. We had drinks and desserts while we laughed and enjoyed being together. He gave me the best vacation I'd ever had. A muffin tin is a weird thing to fight over. When we returned from the Dells, my roommate was very upset about a muffin tin I had packed in my boxes. She claimed I had her tin in my room and she wanted it back. I was convinced it was my muffin tin and I wasn't going to give it to her. I was already upset because my very clean bathroom had been used and left dirty by her brother. While arguing through the door, my boyfriend tells me to give her the tin and he will buy me a new one. Not only that, but to pack my bags and I will live with him and his parents. And I was shocked at this option. I met his parents on Thanksgiving because I had begged my boyfriend to let me leave my grandmother's and visit him. He lived at home at the time while getting his master's degree. When I walked up to the house, it felt like I was entering a castle. Hardwood floors, white crown molding was everywhere with bright lights. With welcoming arms, I was given a seat at the table with plates of authentic Polish food. My boyfriend's parents are 100% Polish and very religious. I was no longer a believer, but I could give the right answers to make her happy. Multiple Polish women tried to teach me how to speak in Polish. I was horribly wrong, but everyone laughed with me and encouraged me. My boyfriend's mother put her arm around me and said, "Next year, next year." She expected me to return for more holidays. I felt at home when I was there. I was at my boyfriend's house a lot. I hated being at my apartment, so I found reasons to stay. I was very bold with my communication. I told him that I would stay as long as I was allowed because I didn't want to go home. I understood that if he needed time alone, I understood that if he needed time alone, he knew that I would not be upset if he asked me to go home. If he asked me to leave, I understood why. I never got angry or upset if he told me what he needed. He had given me stability and a hope for life. I would give him anything. We had only been dating 9 months. I never thought about asking to live with his parents before he suggested it. Within hours of his suggestion to move in, I moved out of my apartment. I moved in with my boyfriend and his parents. Most of my things were put in storage under a staircase and crawl spaces. My roommate let me out of the last month of our lease. I was supported by my boyfriend while I went to massage therapy education. Without having to pay for rent or medication, I was able to pay my student loans that earned me no employment. The interest rate alone was my motivation to pay off the amounts as soon as possible. I would call or text him every time I wanted to buy food from a restaurant. It was difficult for me to let go of the emotional roadblocks I had built because of my father's behavior when I was a child. My boyfriend was patient with me while I suffered from feeling insufficient and terrified to lose him. Being happy for a moment is what I'm used to. Being happy for long periods of time is not normal for my life. I lived as if any moment he could leave. He continued to work full time and go to school full time. Starting a job 5 minutes from his parents' house was fabulous. I could drive to where I lived for my breaks. I lived a life with irregular hours. It wasn't uncommon. I was at the house alone with my boyfriend's parents. While sleeping in her son's bed, his mom would poke her head into the room and tell us to come downstairs for breakfast. She loved to feed me and anyone who came into the house. I was so thankful for her letting me be in the house. I cleaned the house. The house was huge with lots of cracks and crevices that having a broken hip makes hard to clean alone. The basement was full and finished, so there was plenty of space for all of us. Living at my boyfriend's parents' house was easy. In the hours we were home together, we spent time in the basement or at the park in the field behind the backyard. His parents had built the house in an unincorporated area, so the park was surrounded by nature. We would walk and talk about religion and our beliefs. He had taken classes and studied many religions I was curious about. No matter how many questions I asked, he was patient and kind with his answers. He taught me how to ask better questions. I never knew that I never knew so much. In school, documentary movie days were boring. My boyfriend would watch the History Channel and BBC documentaries on weekends while I would sit and work on my jigsaw puzzles. Hours would go by as he played video games or we watched documentaries together. I never knew I loved learning so much. Puzzles are not a group activity for me. I have a very specific organization where I put each piece. During a shift at work, my boyfriend and his sister decided to work on the 1,000-piece puzzle of The Screamer. I had organized on the floor. When I returned from work, I was informed that I was missing a piece, but that I had 2 extra pieces. It wasn't hard to find the pieces that were shoved incorrectly into their space. That was the last time they helped me with a puzzle. Multiple previous times when my boyfriend from high school was visiting, multiple times previously when my best friend from high school was visiting town, we had made plans to see each other. Each time something changed last minute, resulting in not seeing each other. His family had moved to a different state, but he was visiting cousins and other family. It disappointed me greatly each time he broke our plans. My boyfriend saw how a friend he had never met was making me feel. After enough begging and guilt, I convinced my best friend to at least come and meet my new boyfriend. I had come so far, and I still wanted him as a friend in my life. In my boyfriend's parents' basement, we drank and enjoyed our conversations. It was bittersweet to say goodbye to him only after a few hours. I had no idea when I would see him again. Sunday was always a day I worked. Starting as a cashier, I moved up to the front end manager. I cared about work because it was my only line of supporting myself. I was grateful for my boyfriend, but I had to plan a future that didn't depend on him. He might decide to leave. When I got home from work on a Sunday, I was informed by my boyfriend he found an apartment and he was moving out. There was an argument between him and his mom over going to church. He refused to go and was done living with his parents. He did not include me in his plans in moving to a new apartment. I was uncomfortable living at the house without him, and he didn't think about where I was going to go once he left his parents. I was going to be homeless. End of chapter 11.